Hello, beautiful beings and conscious co-creators. Welcome back to my channel. It's so nice to see you again and talk to you guys again. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Demi. And yeah, this is my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the story of Lilith. First and foremost, why Lilith? Well, because Lilith was the idea that sparked this series of me talking about different types of goddesses, their energies, their stories, and maybe trying to understand their archetypes so that we may, utilize those in, certain things that happen to us in life. We can take on some of their energy. Also, it's helpful to know and use when you're dealing in certain magical, like spell casting, altar work, manifestations, things like that. It's just good to be more well-rounded, and I am a student of life, so as I learn, I share. It's just something about myself. It may be really my Gemini and Venus that just loves to, tell people what I've learned and shared. I just want to, really quickly disclaim something. And I'm anticipating this happening with the series just because these are going to be goddesses. I'm going to be talking about different Loa and Orishas as well. And I wanted to be very clear that specifically with Lilith, because this is what I've experienced, is this is a folklore. So what that basically means is this is storytelling that is passed on and passed on and passed on. And so because of that, you're gonna probably hear different versions of this story. I'm pretty sure if you look up 10 videos, there are going to be different types of takeaways that you can pull from it. So I definitely urge you guys, if you're interested in this more beyond this video, to do your own research, and also be respectful of my own research process and the work that I put in. That's the disclaimer. That's it. I'm gonna go ahead and jump straight into the story of Lilith, so stay tuned. First things first, so Lilith. A lot of the stuff that I pulled from is coming out of Jewish folklore and also aspects of the Bible which can be looked at as Jewish. Know that there are talks of Lilith or Lilith-esque type of deities. Maybe they didn't call her Lilith, but there were aspects of that I read in other types of mythology, like Greek mythology. But I am going to be reading more on the Jewish folklore side. So that's something that I just want to let you guys know about. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the Bible, right? Lilith is mentioned in the Bible just once, and it is in the book of Isaiah, chapter 34:14 is the verse. And it says, "Wildcats shall meet with hyenas, goat demons shall call to each other. There too Lilith shall repose and find a place to rest." And that is in the New Revised Standard Version. So, if you're familiar with the Bible, there's different types of versions. The King James Version, the NIV, the NLT, New Living Testament. I was born and raised in the church, so I'm pretty familiar with the Bible, even though I'm a whole heathen, but it's okay. It's funny that the Bible only mentions her just once and really doesn't talk about anything about her, just says Lilith shall repose. The story about Lilith actually starts at the very beginning of the Bible. So, in Genesis, when the Bible talks about after God created heaven and earth, he created, man named Adam. And then from Adam, he created Eve. Eve came from Adam's rib. So we're pretty much, most of us are probably familiar with how that story goes. Well, what I've read about is that that's not necessarily how that happened. Apparently, when God created heaven and earth, when God got to, to the point where he was going to start making man, he made Adam, and, Adam came from the earth. Well, so did Lilith. Apparently, there was another person that was made around the same time that Adam was made the same exact way. So Lilith, unlike Eve, Lilith did not come from Adam. Lilith came from the earth as Adam did. It's very important to understand that they are equal, okay? Eve was from Adam, Lilith was not. That's your first takeaway. Okay, so Adam is, created, Lilith is created. They're both in the Garden of Eden, right? Living life like it's golden, yada, yada, yada. So apparently there was a situation that happened in which Adam and Lilith were like, all right, let's have sex. And Adam was like, all right, I'm going to basically lead this. And Lilith was like, no, I'm going to lead this. And so just, let your mind wander. So Lilith was like, I don't want you asserting dominance over me. I want to lead the sex act, essentially. And that was a big problem for Adam, because, he's the man, right? So he was like, not cool. I don't like that. So that became a really big issue because Lilith essentially would not submit to Adam. Lilith preferred to be right alongside and equal to Adam, which meant that instead of Adam being able to call the shots and always have the control and the power and the dominance, she would have liked to have that as well. So basically, and mind you, they are husband and wife, essentially, as far as the Bible's concerned. When Adam and Eve were created, Eve was meant to be Adam's wife. Lilith is the same concept. So Adam and Lilith were meant to be husband and wife, right? Well, when that little situation happened and she refused to be essentially, she refused to be subservient to Adam, Lilith left. Right? She was like, bye, deuces. Right? Which is like, how do you even leave the Garden of Eden? I mean, if you read Genesis, like that's just, is it Genesis? Again, heathen right here. So I don't even know what chapter that is, but I know that, the story of Eden was basically, this is God's gift to you guys, so you stay here. Well, so anyway, Lilith was like, I don't care what the rules are. I'm not about to be married to him, and I'm not staying in this garden. So Lilith said, deuces, right? Okay, so this part of the story gets a little weird, and this is where I started to find conflicting stories, even just from my own research. So I tried to do my best to compile this. So what happened after she fled the garden? Because Lilith was just like, I'm out. So apparently when she fled, she found some sort of cave or some sort of like enclosed structure, and that's pretty much where she stayed. And apparently during that time of her staying away, there were 3 angels that came down from heaven to visit Adam and basically ask Adam, like, what happened? What'd you do? Like, where's Lilith at? And Adam was like, hey, she left. You need to go get her, right? So basically Lilith kind of had some like bounty on her head or something. So the 3 angels end up finding her, kind of tucked away outside of the garden, and they approach her. Now, the 3 angels' names, and this is important to know, I am going to write them in on the screen because I know I'm probably going to butcher them, but I personally believe that Spirit really, it's appreciated when you attempt to try to speak their names. I think there's something spiritually pleasing about that. So I'm gonna try to say their names, but forgive me if I butcher them. There's Sinoi, San Sinoi, and Samajalof. Jalof. So Sinoi, San Sinoi, and Samajalof, okay? The 3 angels. The 3 angels find Lilith, and they're like, hey, you got to come with us. We're taking you back to the garden. We're taking you back to Adam. And Lilith was like, no, I'm not going. There was some threatening going on, but it is important to know that when apparently they found Lilith in the cave or wherever she was pregnant. She was bearing children. And that part is very confusing because I don't know exactly if those were Adam's children, because I also read that when Lilith left the garden, she was just kind of doing a bunch of stuff and, she just living her best life. But it does say that they found Lilith bearing child, meaning she was pregnant at the time of their spotting her. And so when she refused to go back to the garden to be with Adam, the angels basically, they basically cursed her. They basically told her, we're gonna kill 100 of your children every day. And this is in response to your disobedience. So that's a lot. That's a lot of kids. I mean, 1 child is too many. So, but yeah, they said they were gonna kill 100 of her children every day for her disobedience. And in response to this, she told the angels, fine, well, I'm gonna kill newborns essentially, is what she responded to that with. So there is a legend that is important to know regarding that specific statement of her killing the newborns in response to the angel saying that they were going to punish her and curse her for not going back. And so the legend has it that that is where SIDS actually comes from. And SIDS, if you don't know, is sudden infantile death syndrome, which is basically the unexplained death of a baby that's usually younger than 1. So around newborn age up until their first year of life, that's what they'll classify as SIDS. If they die from just, 1 minute they're in the 1 minute they're in their bed sleeping, and then it's a really sad thing. I've heard of stories about parents losing their child to SIDS, their children to SIDS. So it's a really sad thing, but it is something that happens. And so there is a legend that says that that is where SIDS come from. It comes from Lilith vowing that she would kill newborns because of what happened between her and the angels. Super important to know as well. What the last part of the legend says that because, there was kind of like an agreement made between her and the angels regarding this whole curse, disobedient punishment thing. She did tell the angels, I vow to not kill the children, the infants, who bear the amulet or a amulet with the 3 angels' names on there. And so because this was a story that was going around, a lot of people began to create amulets for their children when they were born, like little necklaces that bore the names of the 3 angels that I told you about earlier. They did this for protection because they did believe that, their child would remain safe and, uncursed or harmed by the wrath of Lilith. And also also another side note is that Lilith also had a timeline, and I know this doesn't really match the timeline of the actual definition of what SIDS is, but it's just something that I want to bring out or point out to you guys. Lilith said that she would only take boys 8 days after their birth. So male children, she would only take 8 days after their birth. That was the timeline. So from the time of birth till 8 days later. And then for females, she would take them from the time of birth until 20 days after birth, which I felt a way about, honestly, because I was like, well, I'm a female. Like, that's not cool. Like, why women got it? But it's fine, whatever. Point is that 8 days, you had until 8 days for a male child and 20 days for a female child. So mind you, this type of information, people really responded to that and did their best to try to protect their children so that they were, left unhurt. So that is the legend that follows Lilith. Apparently at some point, Lilith did in fact attempt to go back into the Garden of Eden, right? She did. And I guess she had the hopes of reconciling with Adam. So apparently when she got into the garden, she saw that Eve was now a thing. She's like, oh, okay, so this you know? And she didn't take that well. And she's very upset that Adam had moved on. And so, unfortunately, she reacted in a way that I wouldn't advise anybody to do, honestly. So what she did was she hid away and made sure that she wasn't seen by anybody while she was in the garden. She waited until Adam and Eve were asleep in slumber, and she essentially, I don't want to say the word because I don't want this video to be, I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But she essentially took advantage of Adam, the R word, to Adam, and while he was asleep, and basically slept with him against his will. So from that, she became pregnant. She ended up with Adam's seed inside of her, and from there, super important to know, from that pregnancy, she birthed 2 entities, These are known as the incubi and the succubi. If you don't know what those are, if you would like me to do a video on incubi and succubi and what that is, if you'd like me to do a video, I can. But those were the two entities that were birthed from Lilith, and essentially Adam and Lilith are their parents. So like I said, if you want to know about it, let me know. Comment down below, tell me you want to know you want a video about it. Otherwise, you already understand how most of you guys who know what incubi and succubi are, when I say that, you're like, oh, and you're like, that's why. So anyway, let's talk about Lilith then and how Lilith is perceived now, because you have to understand that women empowerment and how the feminist movement came about has really transformed a lot of how we see female deities and female archetypes. So back then, remember when I was telling you guys about how these parents that were aware of the curse of Lilith, they were afraid. Everybody was afraid of Lilith. They were terrified of her. This wasn't an entity that you wanted to fraternize with. This was something that you were fearful of, and so she was looked at as like a demon. She was looked at as a dark entity. She was looked at as something sinister, and it's so funny because I read that even Michelangelo, the painter, he portrayed Lilith as half woman, half serpent. And I'm referencing the Bible. In the Bible, the serpent represented the devil, so again, the devil, and this is Christian perspective, but the devil in Christian perspective and in Christianity, the devil is represented as evil, as everything opposite of God. So for Michelangelo to even paint this picture of Lilith as this like half woman, half serpent, it's insinuating almost to me, and at least I interpret it this way, as if she was something that was evil and dark and not good. But the picture was, if I can find the picture, I'll put it up, but it was of her her half woman, half serpent body coiled around the tree of knowledge. So again, bringing it back into the Garden of Eden. So yeah, she became she became known as this demon that went around threatening the lives of young children. But when the women empowerment organizations, the feminists became a thing, and women decided we're not going to continue to be doormats to men, we're not going to continue to be treated as less than to a man, especially in a derogatory sense. We begin to take back what Lilith is, and she no longer became looked at as this demon and as this negative, sinister spirit, but more of a woman who held her own. Her story became one that women often celebrated because she was able to remain so independent, despite all of the coaxing to just play the subservient role. And it was admirable. She was very admired for that, and people looked at her as this strong being, this strong entity that did not rely on a man to essentially dictate her life. And so she became looked at as a source of strength, but also she became looked at as someone who just kind of like went by the beat of her own drum, did what she wanted to do, and didn't care what anybody thought of her. And so you can also think of Lilith, and you think of wild and free spirit. You think free spirited. You think yes, dark, but dark in the sense of just mysterious, because people didn't really have Lilith figured out. She was not necessarily someone that was just all light and positivity. She was someone that did what she wanted to do and didn't care. She just didn't care. At the time, that's what women needed to hear. Women needed to hear that, and it gave them a lot of strength. And actually their symbols that they've created of Lilith to kind of again, I guess, cast that like mental reminder to remain strong, especially in a world that is still a lot of in a lot of parts of this world dominated by men. So yeah, that is the story of Lilith from the research that I gathered. Let me know what you guys think of Lilith. Let me know if you enjoyed this story. I really had a lot of fun researching her. I can't wait to do my next goddess. If you like this kind of thing, please make sure you're subscribed, because I will be doing more alongside tarot. I will still be doing tarot even though I changed my name. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in my next video. Okay.